Hey everybody, this is Cameron from Noxious and Anonymous. I'm here to do the Twin Peaks Thought of the Day for Tuesday, October 18th, 2016. Hopefully it's not going to be just me. Hopefully some other people will end up showing up. But until then, it'll just be you and me. Hopefully that won't be a problem for a while. You guys can just write in your questions and I'll take them as they come until other people show up. Obviously, today we're going to talk about that amazing teaser trailer that Showtime dropped today. Obviously, we had no idea that was going to be dropped. I had plans to do kind of a different show today, more of like entertainment news, but obviously when this dropped, moved that to later in the week, and we're going to talk Twin Peaks. Unfortunately, again, it's 6:30 at night here on the West Coast, so that's about 2:30 in the morning for several people that I talked with that are in England and Scotland, and so hopefully some of the people that I talked to in America will join, but right now they're not here, so that's kind of a shame. So before I get into my feelings on the teaser, if anyone has any questions, please start throwing them out there. Let's see. Okay, so there's nobody. Okay, well, Hal just says, well, can't wait to hear your thoughts on the new promo. Okay, well, I guess I'll just start. It's amazing. You know, it's really interesting that every time Twin Peaks recently has taken maybe a step back, it then takes like several jumps forward. Like, for instance, when those first few pages of Mark Frost's book, A Secret History of Twin Peaks, got leaked, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Of those leaked pages. However, then dropped the Angelo Badalamenti teaser trailer with him playing the music and the camera going through the woods and culminating in that classic shot of Laura Palmer, and that was incredible. So, and then of course, you know, now people are now that people have the book, people online are really dissecting it and complaining about it, about the inconsistencies. I still don't have my copy. Amazon still hasn't sent it yet, so it's kind of a bummer. However, I do know Eric got a hold of the audio CD today, so maybe he has listened to a bunch of it and he'll come on and talk about it. I'm hoping, at least, so I'm not just sitting here for the next hour or so by myself. But then this teaser dropped, and wow, it's kind of like everything you want, right? It tells you what you want to hear, but it tells you nothing. That's just, I don't know, to me that's just the best of both worlds. It really walked the line between new cast members and older cast members. And what I thought was really interesting is no Mark Frost, no David Lynch. Obviously, we know David Lynch doesn't like to comment on things, but Mark Frost is somebody who does like to share his thoughts about his work, and especially Twin Peaks. And, you know, he was a big catalyst of wanting to keep going in this universe. So I find it interesting that he's not in it. So maybe he's taking a page out of David's playbook and just going to let the work speak for itself. Also, you know, a lot of people have been talking about, oh, this is going to be more like Fire Walk With Me than the show. And obviously we don't have any idea about that. But I do think that the way Kyle looks in his suit with that hair, it's much more of the slick Fire Walk With Me look than what we got in the series. But hey, I mean, who knows? I mean, that could just be one scene. I mean, we don't know what he's going to look like through the whole thing. I thought it was really interesting that Miguel Ferrer in the teaser said that David Lynch told him, you know, all those Twin Peaks rumors, they're all true, which just made me laugh, because how many times were you told by people in the Twin Peaks community that all this bullshit that you were hearing on Ain't It Cool News or about NBC possibly bringing the show back, that it was all false, it was all lies, that was never going to happen, it was just wishful thinking on the fans, and it had been true for years. It just obviously had not been made public yet. I thought that was really great, that the whole time that people were being told that it just would never come back, that David Lynch is, you know, way past that, and he'd never go backwards. Well, obviously he's not going backwards. He's taking something that he did a long time ago, but now he's moving forward with it. So I'm just obviously just like everybody else, just on pins and needles, can't wait to see what that's going to be. I do think that we are going to get a trailer, pretty soon, probably by Christmas. Maybe not a full trailer, like a movie trailer or anything like that, but I think we're going to get some footage pretty soon. Okay, so it's really interesting. I mean, I'm gonna, somebody the other day said, Cameron, your videos on here are just very hateful towards Twin Peaks, and I never got that. I just love to talk about the subject. So obviously, if you are a hater of Twin Peaks, this is the wrong podcast to listen to today, because I am going to be basking in my love of it here. I love the fact that they are using the same lettering for the show. I know that sounds like a small thing, but it's kind of crucial, because you want to be brought back to that feeling. Every night, if you remember, whether it be Thursday night or Saturday night at 10 o'clock, when those letters came up in that block lettering with the green, you knew it was, it was Twin Peaks night. It was great. It's fantastic. I think it's really, now I don't know if they're just showing this because it's the real locations, but they showed like the sawmill that's, obviously no longer there, or, it's just like that pipe stack. And I don't think they're going to CGI like a working sawmill there. So I think it's interesting. They're going to probably be using the real locations, and kind of adapt to what it really looks like now. So I don't know. I mean, they're just showing behind the scenes footage. We don't know what it really looks like in the show, but I'm assuming if they're showing that, they're going to imply that the sawmill never got rebuilt after the fire that Leo started. I found it really interesting as well that Kyle says about this new series that there's a freshness to it, but the key is there's a lightness to it. If you remember in that documentary, it's a documentary in name only, but it's not really, that one that they included on the Fire Walk With Me DVD, that James and I kind of did a spoof commentary over. It's included on the Blu-ray box set as well. And where Kyle said that he didn't like Fire Walk With Me because of the darkness. He thought it was too dark, and so did Peggy Limpton. So for him to say there's a lightness to it says that we're going to go back to that, walking the line between darkness and humor. Maybe not the humor of Dick Tremaine getting a pine weasel to bite his nose, but I think it's definitely going to be a little bit lighter than Lynch's recent fare has been. Got goosebumps looking at the sheriff department sign. I know that's a small thing, but after visiting the town and seeing the driver training school there, it's kind of nice to see the legitimate sign of the sheriff's station back. Jim Belushi is in this teaser trailer, and listen, I didn't really watch According to Jim. I'm sure the show is fine, but sometimes when actors get on sitcoms for long periods of time, they lose their edge, right? And if you remember Jim Belushi back in the 80s, right, you had About Last Night, Salvador, The Principal. I mean, who could forget The Principal? But he was really a strong presence, and the way he looked in this teaser, I don't know what he's playing, but he kind of had a Lost Highway Robert Loggia kind of feel to him. So I don't know. I think Lynch is going to give him back some edge. I think he's probably going to. I don't know. I get the feeling like he's going to have the perpetrator of some violence, which I think he's great at, actually. Seeing the falls in slow motion. I mean, it's home. It's Twin Peaks. That's what it's all about. James Marshall. It was fantastic to see him. We did an interview with him, I think last year, and so it was great to see that he looks, he's back. He's healthy. Looks fantastic. He talks about how Twin Peaks, in sort of poetic cinematic terms, is kind of the essence of all human experience. And it kind of made me laugh, because when I was in high school, I actually showed Twin Peaks to a kid that, oh, Joe's here. Fantastic. I was just finishing this little story here, that I showed Twin Peaks to a friend of mine in high school that was of Palestinian descent. And when he saw all of Twin Peaks, he said, "Cameron, it's beautiful. it's like the Bible. You can just watch it and get everything you need out of life from it. I always thought that was kind of interesting, especially considering that Palestinians aren't known to think about American television on the level of the Bible. So, welcome, Joe. Got a little
Hey
bit,
guys.
got a little bit of feedback, but it's all right. So I was just talking my thoughts about the Showtime's teaser trailer. So while I'm looking at the chat, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you thought of the trailer overall?
I liked it. I liked the fact that they seemed really emotional about it, and the fact that Albert Rosenfeld was talking, and it was nice to see the way they reacted to what they filmed. I'm getting excited each day, more by the day.
It's interesting. Dallas Street in the comments writes, he thought it was interesting that Kimmy was the only original cast female in the promo. And I thought that, you know what, I never even thought about it till he brought it up. It's kind of true. There was no Cheryl Lee, no Machen Amick, no Peggy Lipton, no Sherilyn Fenn. And someone else, Ryan Quinn, writes, that's probably why Sherilyn is pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like she's probably been diminished in the new show. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. She probably didn't film much, and now she's pissed.
Yeah. Led Nerg says he's not a big Jim Belushi fan, but he's a serviceable actor. I would say go back and watch some of Jim Belushi's earlier movies, because he's fantastic in them. Like I said, he had always had humor, but he also had kind of a dangerous edge to him, and he's been very softened by the sitcom that he was on for a decade or so, according to Jim. So
yeah, I liked him. I liked him in the '80s a lot.
Yeah.
K9 and those kind of movies. Those were cool.
K9. So some of the things I brought up before you were here, sorry if I'm repeating myself here, but I just want Joe to hear him, is that Kyle saying that there's going to be a lightness to this Twin Peaks. Kind of makes people stop and think like, oh, they're not going to just go dark, 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 fire walk with me through this whole thing. It's going to go back to that balance of darkness and light. Also, it's got to give you credit too. The Miguel Ferrer saying that that David Lynch says that the rumors were all true, that it was coming back after so many people were telling you and James that it was never coming back. I don't know. I just love the idea of them uncovering the sign. There's small little things, but like I said, like the sound, the feel of the teaser, it wasn't like some slapdash throw them together Showtime kind of bullshit. Yeah, it's only a minute and a half, but it had the mood, it had the feel, and every time I want to complain about something I'm hearing about this Mark Frost book, something comes out on the other side that makes me go, no, maybe the book might have some issues. I don't know. I haven't read it, but the show is going to be in great hands. Like everything I'm seeing from the show, whether it be the Angelo Badalamenti tease, this thing, some of the pictures that came out from when they were filming, I think, Krista Bell says, right, that it's going to be, it's going to be changes, but it's going to be changes people are going to be okay with. So I don't know. What do you think about all that?
I agree. I like the fact that Krista Bell's in it. I've been saying for years, either her or Lana Del Rey was going to be Lynch's new muse if there was a new Twin Peaks. I just had a feeling the way he promoted him and the way they promoted him. And I'm glad she's in it. I really like what I've heard from her. I like Lana Del Rey too. It's depressing at times. I watched the video from last time you did with the rest of them, and I agree that she can be depressing, but I think that's Twin Peaks-ish in a way. But I'm excited. I'm really excited, and I think the next thing we're going to see is probably a teaser or a trailer, because usually that's what like HBO and those networks do. They'll have that promo where the making of before they. I know HBO does that a lot. And then they have a trailer for the new season.
Right.
So.
Dallas Street writes, Kyle looked more like Coop in this promo than any of the other leaked pics so far with the hair gel and the lighting. I'm assuming he's thinking of the pictures outside the motel where he looks like he's filming some Mike Figgis movie, like a remake of Leaving Las Vegas or something. Who knows? Who knows? I was thinking that he looks more like the Cooper from Fire Walk with Me than the Cooper in the show, because the Cooper in Fire Walk with Me had a completely different hair look. Even the hair that he is wearing when he's talking to Albert during the time of Laura Palmer being alive still is still more Fire Walk with Me than the show. Maybe more of the pilot Cooper, that part, but not, I'm thinking of more of like when second season where he had some hair and where he's wearing the whatever those other shirts or whatever, not the FBI garb, but the
plaid.
The plaid. That's the word I'm looking for. Plaid.
The lumberjack look.
But I also think it's interesting too, and I brought this up earlier, is that in the teaser trailer we see a lot of people, but no David Lynch and no Mark Frost.
Nope.
So
that was surprising.
But do you think that Mark Frost is going to be joining David Lynch in terms of let the work speak for itself? We're not even going to comment on it.
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that a lot of like HBO especially. I haven't watched Showtime since like Dexter and I don't know about Showtime, but HBO. Wait, Game of Thrones is HBO, right?
Correct.
All right, yeah. Like, they always show the behind the scenes stuff you can access on demand. And I would imagine Lynch and Frost would do something like that. All those networks do it for each and every show.
But I don't think that Lynch and Frost are going to be doing what the executive producers do over at Game of Thrones or what they did over at Lost, which is, the executive producers would get together and kind of do their own podcast after show or, talk.
Right.
I can't see that happening, Maybe
it would be interesting if they did like a Breaking Bad post-show kind of thing. I always liked that a lot.
But I think that what's going to happen is, I don't know. I just get this feeling like they're just gonna. I'm losing my train of thought here. They're just gonna, show's gonna come out and that's gonna be it. I don't think they're gonna be commenting too much. But I'm thinking this channel is gonna be doing live after shows after it airs as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm looking forward to that.
Only thing is we got to get some other people to go to bed early so they can get up in the middle of the night and join us, because a lot of the other people on this podcast are overseas.
Where is everybody right now?
Sleeping, apparently.
But we'd have more people on here.
Well, I sent out 20 invites.
Yeah, I talked to James. He said he wasn't going to be able to make it. I knew that.
Yeah, but he's up at every hour of the night, so.
I know.
every time I write him a message, he responds back in like 2 to 3 minutes.
The other night, I was telling James through Messenger, the other night I was in Salem, because I live down the street from Salem, Mass, and punk rock show event going on. It wasn't really my scene, but it was cool, and they had a girl there who was selling her own jewelry and photography, and she had a bunch of like owl cave like that she made, and I said, "Oh, look at this," and I was like, she goes, "Oh, you know what that is?" I was like, "Yes, I do know what that is." And so I told her about the page, and she goes, "Oh my God, that's you? I've been subscribing to that for years." I thought that was interesting because, it's a younger scene. She was older, but it was a very young scene. I would be surprised if half of those kids knew what Twin Peaks was.
So there's some dispute about whether or not Julie Cruz is going to be in the new show. Some people are saying yes, she will. Some people are saying no, she's not. But then she is on the cast list as well. Do you think they're going to have kind of like a battle of the bands in the Roadhouse where the singers are kind of who's Julie Cruz versus Krista Bell?
Cruz, you got Trent Reznor, Eddie Vedder. I mean, that's going to be interesting. I mean, is Eddie Vedder going to be a character? Is he going to be a singer?
He'll be a character like Chris Isaac was a character. You know, Chet Desmond didn't all of a sudden break out into Wicked Game in the middle of Deer Meadow.
Yes. I really liked Chris Isaac a lot.
Although that may have made Fire Walk with Me even cooler if all of a sudden there was like a musical interlude instead of a awful boxing scene that they cut out of that movie.
Oh God, that went on for way too long.
Talk about anticlimactic, right? There's a scene where he like fought the sheriff outside, and then when you see the scene, you're like, exactly what Jennifer Lynch told me, which is, well, that's interesting to see, but I can see why it was cut.
Right. It was interesting, you know. It was so stupid at the end where he picks up the steel and he bends it, and I was just like, come on.
User name Nancy, is it? Writes, do you think the new peaks will delve into the town's past, like Frost's book?
I think, yeah. I mean, we always talked about what went on at Pearl Lakes and the Palmer family history, and I think that's going to play a big part of it, especially since we know that Leland Palmer is going to be in a bunch of episodes.
I don't think we're going to go and do the whole Lewis and Clark thing.
No,
I don't think we're going to.
No.
I don't know. Yeah, if the whole show begins like Terrence Malick's The New World, and we're sitting there like watching Pocahontas and Sacagawea and all that stuff, we'll be like, what on earth?
That would be stupid. I mean, we already talked about how the book is covering that, and I'm still not completely sold on that aspect of it. I mean, did you have to go back to the New Frontier and all that? You know, like, I mean, I thought the stuff they left out of Fire Walk With Me was cool with the 50s and Eisenhower, and but I mean, I don't want that to be the basis, the main plot of something in the show. I mean, they've already dedicated at least 40 pages we know of to it.
Right.
So,
well, yeah, some people are saying, how are you going to do after shows, Cameron, if people over in the UK and other places aren't going to be able to see it? Well, I'll tell you, I'll do the after shows maybe with people who are able to see it, and then we'll do another show with the other people from the UK. And I know James is really wanting to go all out when this new series comes out. He's talking about doing reviews. I'm talking about after shows, but he wants to do reviews. He wants us to do commentaries over the new episodes. And I'm like, whoa. Maybe we should finish the commentaries for the old episodes first. But no, he wants to go all out and do almost like 3 to 4 videos for every episode that comes out. And then he wants to do another episode, which is when the whole season's done, doing a review and retrospective of it all. So there is going to be a lot of Twin Peaks on this channel. So if you guys like Twin Peaks and you like this channel and you like all of us, or can at least stomach some of us, make sure to tell your friends and have them subscribe, because I think about 50 people away from having 1,000 subscribers, which would be amazing. Yeah. So
I still, I agree with all of that. I think all that, we should do all that. We should do the reviews. We should do commentary if we can, if we can coordinate it.
Here's what I'm thinking of doing. I'd love to do commentaries because they're fun to do, but here's something I think will be really fun, because I'm getting a real kick out of doing these live shows, because obviously you get the instant viewer feedback of people watching live. Right now, right. We have about 16 people watching, but it's dinner time, so probably people will join us in a little bit. However, I'm thinking we should do maybe not the commentaries for the new episodes, but definitely when we do some of the other commentaries for some of the older episodes, I think we should do kind of watch-alongs, where if we do the commentary, we can do them live, and so people can throw out their feedback as well, and we can incorporate it.
Right.
So some of their thoughts can come into a commentary too. I think that'd be a lot of fun, because
like live at the moment kind of stuff.
Well, no, it's like we'll put on the pilot, because we haven't done a commentary yet for the pilot. So put that on, but we'll watch it along with 100 people live.
That would be great.
Yeah, because I mean, I've never really watched Twin Peaks in a large group.
Me either. Although
So,
that bar that I went to in Boston that had it screening on the big screens, and it was so random. I was like, it was this sports kind of bar, and they were screening the Twin Peaks pilot, and it struck me as funny.
yeah. Some people are saying Dallas Street is writing, I wonder if the promo was derived from one Q&A with whoever was on the set that day, or if they had interviewed many more cast members on different scene shoots, which we haven't seen yet. I guarantee you they've interviewed everybody, at least the core people. It may, but I mean, it definitely was the same lighting setup. So, I mean, it probably was, those people for 3 or 4 days, and then but yeah. So,
if they interviewed Cheryl and Fenn, I'm sure it was a very animated interview.
Yeah, exactly. Todd Matthews says you should do a show called Talking Peaks.
Ooh,
I don't know. They have the Talking Dead and all that stuff. It's kind of funny, but
yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is some hipster douche. Not James now. That he's a douche waffle. Remember, but
douche nozzle.
Exactly, but I think that there's going to be people on mainstream TV or on YouTube that have big production value studios. They'll probably be doing things like that, and I don't know. Someone asked me the other day about we like the low production values of the podcast, and thank you for that. However, one of the reasons why I don't go and rent a studio in my town and film this stuff is because I don't have any access to talk to people like Joe and James and Helena and Dirk and Eric. We don't have any Skype technology in those studios, so I wouldn't be able to fly them all in to talk with me. So that's kind of why we're here. Although I think I'd probably
the other night, it clearly looked like Helena was very tired.
She was.
She just kept. I was watching it yesterday when I got home, and I was just, James was going off on funny tangents, and she was just like, "Hello, Helena, are you there? Are you there?"
She has no patience for James just talking into oblivion like that.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to catch his humor.
Or I think she catches it a little too well sometimes.
Yeah.
Hal Brandt says you should call your show "Our Logs Have Something to Say," but that sounds kind of dirty. Hal Brandt,
I like it.
Hal Brandt writes douche waffle for life.
Was it douche nozzle or douche waffle?
I believe it was waffle.
Oh, I thought it was nozzle. Okay.
Username Nancy writes, here's an interesting question. Do you think, and my answer is I hope not, do you think the new Twin Peaks will feature Lynch singing again?
Interesting.
Strange. It's like, oh God.
I could picture him singing on the soundtrack. But why would you sing when you have Eddie Vedder, Trent Reznor, Krista Bell, maybe Lana Del Rey? I really think that the soundtrack could be huge. Especially after seeing how big the Stranger Things soundtrack was. That was a bestseller.
And they just released the Twin Peaks album again, and that
which is out of stock. I tried getting it.
Yeah.
Did you get it? Did you order it?
No, I mean I have it already. I mean the CD and the tape and stuff when it first came out.
I just recently today I purchased a record player. I'm getting into vinyl. Mm-hmm. Everyone I know around here is big into vinyl now.
That's an expensive hobby, Joe.
I know, man. They're like $30-$40 a vinyl.
Yeah.
And I got it was on Amazon. I signed up for that Amazon rewards card, and so they gave me $100 gift certificate to use on the purchase. Mm-hmm. But it came with a preamp built in and Bluetooth speakers. It was Audio Technica, which I love that brand, and I wanted to order the Peak soundtrack, and it says temporarily out of stock.
Yeah. Hal Brandt writes, I want to see Alicia Witt play piano again. Yeah, it is kind of bizarre. It's sort of like a Happy Day situation when you're watching the show, because it's like, wait a minute, Donna has a second sister? You know, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. You know,
that's right. There was 3 of them.
But I would love it if Alicia Witt showed up in the series, looked at Cooper as Bob, and said, "He is the Kwisatz Haderach." Because that was her as a little girl in Dune, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then she also showed up with Lynch with Crispin Glover in the third story in Hotel Room.
Crispin Glover, he's so creepy.
when he
just shows up randomly and stuff.
Yeah, when he slams his hand down in Wild at Heart, I'm making my lunch.
Yeah,
I love it.
And he's just, and you know, he was the creepy guy with the one arm and Hot Tub Time Machine, and
yeah. But I prefer really strange Crispin Glover performances.
I love River's Edge. I loved him in River's Edge.
River's Edge. For those people, there's a little bit of feedback, so sorry, guys. But River's Edge is a movie. It's almost like a Lynch movie Lynch didn't make, because it almost feels like a companion piece to Blue Velvet in a way. And and actually, the true story of River's Edge happened about an hour and a half north of me.
Didn't Tim Hunter make it?
Yes,
Tim Hunter made it.
Right.
And he was, I still think, the second best director, him and Deschanel, after Lynch on the show.
Yeah, I mean he's great. So I mean, you can see why they hired him. But yeah, I mean, River's Edge. I mean, you get another great Dennis Hopper performance, but just the tone of it is, it's very Lynchian. But it's not really filmed with like a painter. I mean, it's filmed like a low budget true crime story.
Oh yeah.
But
I know it won a bunch of film festival awards at the time.
I mean, it's one of the few films I could have pointed to when I was younger that said, "Look, Keanu Reeves can act."
Yes, he wasn't like, "Whoa, we've gone too far." Like he wasn't
exactly.
But he was still Keanu Reeves in some scene.
No, but it was almost like the role was tailored for him rather than him trying to play like Jonathan Harker in Bram Stoker's Dracula, Doctor.
Right.
You know.
Oh man, he was so bad in that. And I love Keanu Reeves. I still have to see John Wick. All my friends rave about that film. My buddy's just like, he's like, the whole movie's just like, you killed my dog.
User named Nancy writes, I always thought Lynch and Frost regretted the 2 other Hayward sisters and basically just ignored them, with one more appearance in the second season so we wouldn't think we imagined them.
Yes, they became like those lost siblings on like Happy Days. The what was the other one with the Family Matters? They just wrote the sister out.
Right. Ryan Quinn writes, and I don't think she is, but I would have loved it if Ashley Judd was playing Donna Hayward. But I believe she's playing an FBI agent. I could be wrong.
Ooh, I love Ashley Judd. I had such a crush on her in the 90s, in the mid to late 90s. So beautiful. And you know what? I could totally see her in something by Lynch, which is funny that it hasn't happened till now.
But don't you think that she would make a great Donna Hayward? Yes, everybody wants more Kelly, and I get it, but it would be great.
She's a little too old. She's a little too old.
But if you think so?
Well, actually, no.
You're freezing.
With the same age. Hello?
Go ahead. Say it again.
Do we even know if Dawn is in it yet?
If James is in it, if Everett McGill is in it, if Wendy Roby's in it, how is Donna Hayward not in it? I mean, it's kind of.
Yeah. But
it just doesn't.
We have confirmed that it isn't Laura Flynn Boyle, because didn't her agent say something?
Yes, she's not in it.
So, I mean, I would think it's Moira Kelly, but we haven't had any.
But if Doc Hayward is in it,
Donna has to be.
I mean, and I think it would be unsatisfactory if they just name dropped her, said, "Oh, Donna went to San Francisco when James came back," or something, you know.
I'll see you in San Francisco. That's my best James American impression.
Orc writes, Orc from the Sausage Factory. If you guys aren't watching the Sausage Factory on YouTube, you should. It's a video podcast that I and now Eric of this podcast have joined, and it's just a bunch of guys that all have their own YouTube channels, and they come together and basically talk more or less about 80s horror films and things like that. So check out that. But Orc is on here saying, do you usually have thoughts about Twin Peaks daily, if you know what I'm saying? Originally when this podcast first started, it was called Thought of the Day because it was literally going to be every day. And for a while, I think for a period about a month, I did like 30 of them right in a row. And then it was like, okay, we're running out of things to talk about. So we'll just do it periodically. And then obviously now it's taken on a life of its own because of all the recent Twin Peaks news. So.
I'll tell you, I think about Twin Peaks every day. I really do. It pops in my mind at least a few times a day, especially now with everything that's going on. But I'd say for the last 5 to 6 years, at one point in the day, I'll think of Twin Peaks. And I don't know if that's just because I'm a obsessive person. I have an obsessive personality. I have an addictive personality. I think it just pops in there sometimes. Like something will remind me of it, and I'm like, oh shit! Like, something will remind me of it.
I mean, I never forgot about Twin Peaks ever, but I will admit there were times where, like, because Twin Peaks was at the time over and done with, there were several years where I would just go about my life and watch different things, and but then I would kind of come back to it, get kind of re-obsessed with it, and then that would kind of go away, and I would go on to other things. But I never like forgot about it, but I didn't like talk about it like I do here. And so what happened was, if anybody's interested, I did my interview with Jennifer Lynch back in 2013. But I obviously wanted to prepare for it. So I dug out all of my David Lynch Twin Peaks stuff and went through it. And if you guys have ever seen that interview, I kind of, besides talk with her about a million other things, some of the stuff I talk about is what it was like to grow up in that kind of Blue Velvet through Twin Peaks environment myself and what it meant to me personally. And it was kind of like reliving it in a way. And so when you and James contacted me about being part of the Facebook page, and James said, hey, you should start doing little podcasts about the show, I was kind of way in the zone. So I was like, sure, that sounds like fun. But I never would have thought that 3 years later I would still be doing these videos. So, but that's
I know, and I think it's a really cool thing. It's special. It's brought us together. None of us would know each other without Twin Peaks,
right?
Which is awesome. It's like it's grown. It has an organic thing, and I think Twin Peaks has always been about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all friends, and we all we've been in each other's lives the last 5 years or so, and it's crazy. What happened was like, since what was it when Bravo re-aired them with the Log Lady introductions?
Yeah, that was like in the early 90s.
Oh yeah, between then and I want to say when the internet first started getting big, like 98, 99, and sites were popping up, the old like Peak sites, still wasn't big on it anymore. But then when the first DVD of the first season came out, I think that was like 2000, 2001. R. Palmer on the cover, the Artisan one. I want to say it was like 2001, maybe. I know I was finishing high school at the time.
And what's interesting is that Artisan set, I still maintain, is the best looking of the first season that's ever been on, maybe not the Blu-ray, but it's definitely better than like the gold box set. and
Oh
obviously
yeah, it looked
the
great.
Paramount, yeah, it was great, and it had,
but we didn't have the pilot.
But it had also commentaries that have never been heard from again.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And but I remember I had to buy a Japanese version of the pilot because you couldn't get the pilot anywhere. Trying to show it to an ex-girlfriend at the time who had never seen Twin Peaks. Like, well, it doesn't have the pilot episode? Like, what is this? So,
Yeah.
How can you watch the show without the pilot?
Right. Well, remember, that was the big thing with the when they sold that VHS box set, right? It did not have the pilot as well. And then for a lot of people, like tape, whatever it was, tape 8 or 9 was like a duplicate of like tape 4. So many people had to return their VHS box sets to Suncoast Video and be like, I need a refund or I need a replacement. And then you get home and realize, oh, it's the same thing again, you know.
Suncoast Video. Wow. Sam Goody. I remember all that.
Yeah.
I never had those VHSs. I didn't buy the VHSs. I had rewatched it on Bravo with my mother. I didn't buy the VHS set.
Mm-hmm. Adamo Macri, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He writes, won't the promotional trailers prior to the actual airing of the show be the ultimate form of spoiling? I think they're going to keep it the way they are now. It just kind of really teases and stuff. He says, if Lynch is going to keep it this tightly secure, let's hope it's till the end where very little is shown until the airing. I'm going to tell you, in this day and age of social media, I can't believe he's gotten this far without things leaked out. Aren't you amazed? Like, a script hasn't leaked, a scene hasn't leaked. I mean, yes, obviously we know about the scene they shot outside with Cheryl and Kyle, but we don't know the context of the scene.
No, and she was wearing she had red hair, and which was cool. But the only other one I remember is seeing Cooper in that phone booth at that like hotel or whatever, in Vegas or whatever. Which is crazy that it's now country. And you mentioned this in the last podcast. It's not in that one town anymore. It's all over. And supposedly they filmed in Paris. I'm excited. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know something's going to be crazy because they wouldn't have brought it back if it wasn't something original. And they've been saying that for years. Lynch had been saying that if there's nothing to say, why say it?
Right. Ryan Quinn writes, he doesn't necessarily agree with me about how I feel about Mark Frost's book. Well, again, I can't really judge his book because I haven't read it. I can only judge by.
We haven't read it.
I haven't read it. I'm only judging it by what I've seen so far. Okay, so maybe in the context of reading the book, I will be like, "Wow, this is great." He does say that he heard an interview with Mark Frost where he does seem a little annoyed that he had to integrate the Fire Walk with Me mythology into the book. I get it. He listen. He didn't like Fire Walk with Me, and he hated it for like a decade.
He's been talking about that since the movie came out. I mean,
he's so pissed that Lynch went ahead without him and took Ingalls and wrote this thing without like waiting for Frost. Because as I've said on this podcast numerous times, Fire Walk with Me was the fastest movie Lynch had ever made. We're talking from writing. It was like writing, filming, and editing, all within like 11 months of the finale of Twin Peaks airing. Think about that. If he had had an extra 6 months to a year to work on it, I'm pretty sure some of these missing pieces scenes would have been in the film. But he was working at such a pace to get it ready for the Cannes Film Festival, which in essence was a big mistake because look at the way they received the film. So
now, have you watched the whole 3.5 hour fan edit?
No, I refuse to.
I watched it, and I watched it twice, but it took me so long to get through it. It's too long,
and not all of those scenes are supposed to be integrated into that film. That was just kind of a wish fulfillment for someone to do, but I've maintained that that Lynch purposely kind of sabotaged it, because you would have to, like the scene with Donna at the door crying to Donna, right? And you have that beautiful music that Badalamenti is playing underneath it. Well, that is a condensed conversation than what is in the missing pieces. So that means you have to pull out this beautiful music to just squeeze in this extra long dialogue scene. And then you get the long scene with Doc Hayward, which I think is a nice scene, but there's no payoff of it because, again,
without
the flower at the end of the movie, when James speeds away on his bike, if you watch that shot carefully, the camera starts to pan down to the right, to the ground. And if you read the script, it talks about camera pans down and there's a wilted red rose on the ground. See, the fact that Lynch didn't include that into the missing pieces makes it so that you can't really do a complete edit, you know?
Right.
So
no, I know. I told her I read the ago. He's still man. It's because the whole dream theory and the dreams of Deer Meadow, and because some of it made sense. Because he revised the original theory in this book. He had an extra chapter or two on it. And the dream theory doesn't work with the missing pieces. Because the convenience store scene, most importantly, he kept talking about, like in the missing pieces, the long scene that we see doesn't work if it's just a dream. And if David Bowie keeps saying, we live inside a dream, we live inside a dream, and it doesn't work with the longer, more integrated stuff that got cut. Buenos Aires, because then it's not a dream if he's in Buenos Aires and the script. But I mean,
well, leave it to
people.
Leave it to James to ruin that moment for me when they show that scene, the missing pieces of Buenos Aires, because when the camera pans for a brief second, you see David Bowie's shoe like out from the curtain, like because he's waiting for his cue to start walking, and then he starts walking. It's it's not very good. I mean,
I never noticed that. Now I'm gonna notice it.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, James, for that one. I don't know. I mean, to me, listen, I like David Bowie, obviously, but I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack here in the comments. If his scene was so short, cut in The Fire Walk with Me, maybe they should have just cut him out altogether and just saved that for the missing pieces 25 years later. Because
you couldn't, because it's David Bowie.
Well, he cut out other people, didn't he?
Right.
You know, I think that I would have loved to have had that longer above the convenience store scene, just as a scene unto itself. You know, as opposed to,
I like it. I like the missing one.
It's it's so like scary is not the right word, but it's, you feel like you're going so
visceral.
You feel like you're going so deep into the lodge and it's, and
yes,
it feels like Lynch is actually communicating information about how the internal workings of the lodge without over explaining it. Like, for instance, I remember
they mentioned that in the book. They mentioned in John Thorne's book exactly what you're saying. It's funny that you're saying that right now, because he never vague about the lodge, and in the book they talked about this in that missing scene. You see how it works, and maybe that's why he cut it, because he wanted to be vague. But I love it. When I saw that was the best one that got cut. One of them. I mean, it has to be the best one.
Well, I think it's in my top, let's say, 5 of my favorite scenes.
Right.
Do you have any idea what my favorite scene is that is in the missing pieces?
I love the Palmer scene with the, talking. What is it?
The Norwegian.
That was a nice scene.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't all doom and gloom in that household.
Right.
They were a family, and in without the missing pieces, the film is just he is so evil in that film, Leland. From start to finish, you don't ever see the nice moments that you saw in the show. He did have a good heart, and he did have this other side of him, and you don't see that in the film except for the one time where he breaks down and cries after hands.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of all the missing pieces.
Yeah,
I love. I mean, I do love the
like.
I do love the fan with her smiling. I think that's. I love that. I wish that had been
Could have
left
been
in the
kept in
film.
the film.
Yeah, and I you know, they're kind of not maybe not needed, but I did like kind of the normalization of Sarah Palmer. You know, so she wasn't just always in screaming hysterics all the time. Like when she isn't it like she can't find her sweater or and she's like, "Mom, you're wearing it," or something like that, and she says, "Oh, it's happening again." I always love that, like kind of a nod to that. But I think for me, I mean, there's lots of good missing pieces scenes, but I will say that for me, the one that I think nails the tone of Twin Peaks, like because so much of Fire Walk with Me is so the antithesis of antithesis or whatever of the series, right? But the one scene that I felt like, oh my god, that felt like it got ripped right out of the show and felt like a new scene was the Ed and Norma scene in the car.
Right.
I absolutely love it, and I'll tell you why. Because where the
It should have
placement
been
of
in
that,
the show.
but I also think that it should have been in the movie, and let me explain why. Because it would have come right after Laura and Donna kissing Buck, and then before the red room, or the pink room or whatever. Because you have a couple that wants to be together more than anything and can't be together because of obviously they're married and society standards, and obviously Norma is married to Hank and who has criminal ties, and then you have two teenage girls who are completely right out and open, just engaging the most promiscuous drugs, alcohol, sex, and they're right out in the open. So when it cuts to Ed and Norma listening to the Fire Walk With Me theme, and then it cuts to the trees, and it's so beautiful with that music, and then it just slams to that cut of Laura and Donna in the car. I think that compare and contrast that Lynch does in those missing pieces and would have been in the film, I think would have really just kind of slammed home the point without sometimes Fire Walk With Me is right in your face, and that would have been a cut that made you feel it without feeling like you were being assaulted in a back alley.
Right, but I also see why it was cut, because once they cut all the scenes with the characters from the show,
of course,
it couldn't be a standalone film.
Right.
That would just be too random if you didn't see them the whole film and then you see that. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I know.
Because
I
they
agree.
didn't introduce them in the film. The other missing piece where she cries in the diner and Nadine comes in. And
right. Well, I'm not talking about like just randomly having that scene in there. I mean, like if
you have to have others.
Right. I mean, if they had better incorporated some of the other scenes.
He didn't have enough time. Like you said, he did it too fast.
Yeah.
So all that had to be cut.
The thing is, what I find so fascinating about Fire Walk With Me is it's a movie I truly do love and enjoy. But I love the fact that there's so much to talk about because there's so many what ifs. I remember reading this essay that came out, I think about a year after the movie came out, that said, Fire Walk With Me is great. But if you look at it from another perspective, it's also a complete letdown of what Lynch could have done with an R-rated Twin Peaks movie about Laura Palmer.
Right.
I agree with I agree.
That's still the stigma of it.
I agree with James. Like, it would have been awesome to have seen Laura Palmer cheerleading, winning homecoming queen with Bobby playing football, or what I mean, just something. To kind of really bring.
You don't see any of that.
No, just some of the high school feeling. And there's that one shot of Donna and James looking at each other on the staircase at school, and that's it. Like, wouldn't you have loved to scene like a scene of all three of them hanging out and like them kind of noticing each other a little bit more?
And I'll tell you, once again, I read it in that book, but I had already thought this. when you do a prequel to what already happened, and it's hard to connect it all without feeling forced. And I got that in, like the Star Wars prequels and things like that. You had to connect certain dots, and it doesn't always fly. There's always going to be continuation things, and
well, the thing is, though, it's like a lot of it. Obviously, Ingalls was there, so he knew more of the series. But Lynch primarily looked at the pilot and said, "I just got to link it up to the pilot."
that was it.
But the thing is, though, is that in the pilot, it says, Sarah says, "I heard Laura's phone ring once." So the phone rings once, and then she answers it, and it's James like, "Okay, I'll meet you." But we know from the show that the phone call was placed by Leland in Ben Horne's office, right? Well, they obviously didn't go that far into the series to link that up. So there's been discrepancies for a long time.
The only things that he linked up was the pilot and some stuff from the finale with Heather Graham. They don't mention Wyndham Earle at all. They mention Heather Graham, and most of her scenes got cut. You could see that he kind of bit off more than he can chew, I think, and he didn't have enough time to make it.
Well,
that's
like
the feeling that
well, it's
I
like
get.
the ending. Like you see, Cooper saying, "I didn't brush my teeth." It looks exactly like they just like it was an add-on scene from the TV show. Like it's the right set, it's the right look. Kyle looks exactly like
I loved that.
Kyle looks exactly like Cooper in the TV show. Doc and Harry just look like they just were standing there right from the TV show. It looks perfect. But then you have to ask yourself, where would this have even fit in the movie? It never would have fit in the movie,
And remember, we were talking about what our favorite scenes were from those missing pieces, and that was one of them. The whole prologue scene after Laura's death, I loved. The hospital with Cooper at the Great Northern, the Red Room with Cooper and the little man, that was amazing to see. And in the movie, none of that could have fit in the movie. It would be anticlimactic to include it in the movie.
However, in today's day and age, it would have been a great post-credit scene.
Yes. Back then, they didn't have that.
Right.
So, but like you were saying in the last podcast, supposedly the missing pieces are canon.
They are.
And maybe he wanted us to see these scenes for a certain reason. They already knew they had written Twin Peaks as he was releasing this. Reason he showed us this stuff. I really believe that.
No, I agree. I think that there's a reason why he included these scenes and left a few others out, and not just because of the fan edit. I think that it was a deliberate thing. Like if Annie isn't going to be dealt with at all, there's no point in showing her in the hospital scene.
Right.
I mean, obviously, yes, people want to see that scene, but I think there's a reason why that's kind of like where we're left with.
Yeah, I also have a feeling she's going to show up. I at some point, Heather Graham isn't doing much at the moment.
I've had some people.
Couple TV shows.
I've had some people come after me about the whole Heather Graham thing, saying we don't want Annie Blackburn. We want Sherilyn Fenn. We want Audrey Horne, and I get that, but unfortunately, they brought her into it. So now they have to deal with it. And Lynch obviously thought well of her to incorporate her into Fire Walk with Me. Otherwise, they could have just left her out, but they didn't. I mean, and out of all the characters that he cut out of Fire Walk with Me, he left the scene in of Annie saying to Laura in the bed, "The good Dale is in the lodge." He could have cut that out too.
He could have just eliminated that like he did the Wyndham Earle story. We all know that he didn't like a lot of the Wyndham Earle stuff. That was a Frost thing. And he completely eliminated it going into the movie. He did leave Heather Graham. So he did like something about that character and about that dynamic and the plot point. So I can't see that she wouldn't be mentioned at all in the new series. We're going to hear about her in the book.
Right. I also think that, I think it was... obviously, it was a conflict of scheduling and stuff like that. But I do think Fire Walk with Me has a crucial mistake in it, and that is Audrey Horne is not in it.
Yeah.
I
But
do
why? Do
think,
you know why she wasn't?
well, because she was doing a couple other movies at the time, and he was under that time crunch to crank this movie out as fast as possible. He couldn't wait
Right.
for an actress to show up. And I get it. Some people would say, I remember at the time people saying,
Right.
I mean, even in 1991, 92, when we were hearing about this film being made, people were saying, well, that's okay. She's not in it because they weren't friends. Okay. That makes sense.
Right.
However, a big part of season one is kind of the tension that Audrey felt about Laura Palmer and her relationship with her father, and things like that.
Right. But then they totally went away from that in this half of the second season, which was unfortunate because that was a good story.
Well, I think the story was heading towards Audrey Horne taking over the hotel. I think that's where we're heading.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, yeah, but then I mean, it just sucks because of the circumstances, we never got to see a lot of stuff flushed out in that second season. Whereas Lynch wasn't there, or Frost wasn't there, or different writing.
mhm.
It's just we didn't get to see Audrey and Cooper, obviously, because of the Lara Flynn Boyle factor. Um, and by the time he got to the movie, he probably was like, "Well, what can I do with this character now?"
Right.
Um,
Uh,
I mean, there wasn't much he could do with it.
Lednerg writes, Lynch wanted Mulholland Drive to be about Audrey Horne. Now, I've heard about that too. I just read something today that I thought was really interesting. That Sherilyn Fenn says that yes, Lynch talked to her about sort of a Mulholland Drive thing. Audrey Horne goes to Hollywood, but he talked to her, I believe, in 1991 about it. Not at the time that they made the series, so it wasn't like 97, 98. He approached Sherilyn Fenn about Audrey Horne goes to Hollywood. He talked to her in 91 and said that
Right.
he pictured her in like a convertible cruising Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is light years away from the TV pilot / film we got,
It's almost
So
10
I
years.
don't, yeah. So I think he talked to her initially about something on a Mulholland Drive, but I don't think, Betty and Diane are supposed to be, was the replacement Audrey Horne. I don't think that he was going to go that direction with her.
No, and his mind had obviously shifted by then. I'm sure he still had that idea, which became Mulholland Drive. But I mean, by then, he was so done with television and Twin Peaks. That's when
Mhm.
he was saying he's dead, and
And
he had
that,
just made Lost Highway.
and the reason why, because he usually has uh, so many years in between each film. The reason why the Straight Story and Mulholland Drive came out pretty much right on top of each other, 99 to 2001, is because he'd already shot Mulholland Drive at the time he was, shooting and editing Straight Story. He'd
Right.
shot it as a pilot. ABC rejected it. Straight Story came out. He got some of the best reviews of his career, and so the company came and said, "Can you finish Mulholland Drive?" And he took a year to finish the scenes and re-edit it, and out it is. Out it is as 2001. So that's why Mulholland Drive came out so fast. It wasn't like, oh, he got inspired and just cranked out this movie. I mean, he only had to shoot another 35 minutes or so.
Right. And he already had most of it in the can. But I find it funny that the first Lynch film that Roger Ebert liked was Straight Story, and then from then on, he gave him good reviews.
He gave him 4 stars from then on. Of course,
Yeah,
he only made, but he didn't review Inland Empire, I don't think.
I don't think so. I don't think he did, but he loved everything else.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's see what people are talking about over here in the chat. Oh, they're talking about the missing pieces from Inland Empire. What's funny about that is that thing, More Things That Happened, on the Inland Empire 2 disc. Honestly, and I'm a huge Lynch fan, I can't even get through those. But that was, those scenes were actually incorporated into the film when it had its Polish debut. So we're talking almost a 4-hour cut of Inland Empire, if you can believe that.
That's a lot to get through.
Listen, I know there are people who love Inland Empire, and I think if you take it in almost 10, 15-minute increments, it can be a really good movie. But that movie, honestly, I would have looked at Lynch and said, 90 minutes and get out. because when you sit through that whole 3 hours, I understand it's an ordeal, it's an experience, but when you sit through that whole 3 hours, you come to the ending of the film that you could have gotten halfway through the film. I mean, it's the same feeling, and
Yes.
so to me, it's like, okay, so about an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 50 minutes in, you've gotten everything you can get out of this film, and then he just kind of continues it for another hour or so. So I think
Yeah.
I think digital editing in a way kind of failed him in that regard, because he had
Kept
so much.
filming.
Yeah, he could just film forever, and it's no coincidence that even his own daughter has said Inland Empire is his worst film. And when I asked her about it, she said, I really miss Mary Sweeney's editing. So she didn't feel like it was a disciplined film. She just felt like it was Lynch just throwing paint on a canvas, which is interesting. But
Right.
I gotta tell you, as a huge, huge, huge Lynch fan, once he went digital and started putting up all these little shorts on his website and selling DVDs of his shorts, I kind of tuned out because it didn't feel special anymore. It just felt like somebody sawing a log for 20 minutes and just saying, oh, my fans will love this, and just putting it out. I think in an experimental way, I felt like he lost some of his magic that he brought to his filmmaking.
Everything like you or I could with our iPhone nowadays. Yeah, like, and oh, look, it's a movie. It's in good quality. It's in HD. Or whatever. And that's not what he was for a long time.
Right.
Right. It did lose like that special feeling. And I never bothered to. I never even saw Rabbits. I didn't. I just. And then when I finally sat down to watch Inland Empire, which was a few years after it came out, I was just like, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, it took a whole night to watch it. Uh, and it's just like, okay, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I still am like, I know a lot of people, it's his, and
Okay.
people, right? But emotional though, at times, I did feel emotions.
Okay. So someone is Leonard is talking about Harry Dean Stanton being in season 3, which everybody knows, and I don't know. I mean, like, obviously we don't know for sure, but slight spoilers. I'm very careful with spoilers, but I think this is kind of a cool thing. Maybe this will start a little discussion. So tune out if you don't want to know, but I don't know if this is even confirmed. I'm hearing rumors that Carl Rodd, the character that Harry Dean Stanton played in Fire Walk with Me, is Shelley's dad. Now, while that may seem like fan service, like, oh, let's just connect this character to this character, it does make sense that a girl like Shelley that came from a trailer park would marry Leo Johnson right out of high school.
Right. We've talked about this before, you and I.
I know, but for people in the chat, so.
I know. I can see that totally. But it reminds me of like a Lynchian Pretty in Pink or something. Because he totally was the same character in Pretty in Pink, in his bathrobe all the time.
Well, I don't even,
because I rewatched it recently, and he's totally Carl Rodd, but a few years before.
Well, that's the thing. I think that Harry Dean Stanton just kind of shows up on the set, and you get what you get with him. I don't think Lynch picks out a wardrobe. I think he just shows up in a bathrobe and says, "All right, let's shoot this fucker."
Always loved Harry Dean Stanton. Everything he's in, he's great.
People are saying, yes, Roger Ebert did not review Inland Empire. I thought he didn't. It was one of his correspondents, Jim Emerson. So yeah, so I remember that happening. I do love this idea of Carl Rodd. If it is true that he is playing Shelley's dad, I'm totally on board with it because I've never even thought about it, because Shelley Johnson's married obviously to Leo, but they don't really go into Shelley's backstory ever. And if you really think about it, it's like, obviously we know girls that fall for bad guys, but you have to wonder, how did Shelley Johnson right out of high school meet Leo Johnson and get married? Well, he's a truck driver who could promise to show her more than a trailer park could in Fat Trout, you know? So
Yeah.
so I mean, I like that. So and I know that Carl has moved his trailer park from Deer Meadow to an area near Twin Peaks. So maybe to be closer to his daughter.
That could. I'm interested. I loved his scenes in Fire Walk with Me, and obviously those were some of the best scenes with Cooper actually acting like Cooper. We were talking about the missing pieces, and I think one of the best ones that got cut, I think should have been kept in, was when Cooper goes to Sam Stanley's apartment,
Of
because
course.
he's totally Cooper in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Show, not Cooper Fire Walk with Me.
And
the ones that got cut, except for that awful one where he's talking to Diane.
oh, terrible. I actually posted that on the page a few weeks ago that said this has to be the worst moment on film of Dale Cooper, of him talking to Diane. It's awful. And there's no way in hell they ever thought for 1 second that was ever going to make it into the movie.
It was so bad.
But the scene, obviously, with Kiefer Sutherland is great. And it's a great kind of connecting scene to show why he would go to the trailer park. But it's also why, okay, 1992, Kyle MacLachlan's coming off, obviously, Twin Peaks, The Doors. You know, Kiefer Sutherland is a huge actor coming off Flatliners and a bunch of
Flatliners, I love
right?
it.
And that was right around that time. Why do you cut a scene of Kyle MacLachlan and Kiefer Sutherland together, especially since there's so few moments of Kyle in the movie? I'd want to put as much Cooper in there as possible.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been cut. And I totally, like you said, it relates to that as well, but it also relates to the pilot when he says, "Don't give it to Sam.
Right.
Albert seems a little more on the ball."
Right.
Because in that scene, he's babbling about stuff. Even though he's smart and good at what he does, Cooper's like, "Sam, just tell it to me straight." Like, you know, and he's like, "Oh, you know, he has his own MO, don't you?" And like, he's just babbling about stuff.
But I do think, you know, Kyle not wanting to be part of the movie and then wanting to be the part of the movie, I think was a serious problem. And you can see him just totally buy into this new season with with the teasers and stuff like that, because he's now all invested in, because he realizes how much Agent Cooper means to everybody. That the rest of his,
it's an iconic character.
And while the rest of his career has been good, for the last 15, 20 years, he's basically been shit on by every woman that he's ever in, you know, in a movie, TV show.
Plays an impotent husband, or
like, yeah, I want to see him be this, you know, man again, this Agent Cooper guy. And so I do think it's a
Portlandia. He's quirky.
Well, I mean, that's a little different, but you know, but I do think it was a big mistake, because him not playing, if it had been Dale Cooper and Sam Stanley investigating Teresa Banks, that whole first half hour would have popped. People would have been really different. It would have been very different. And I think, in a way, I see some people feel, I remember this at the time of Fire Walk with Me, and I thought this was interesting. Either Lynch should have made an entire 2-hour movie of Chet Desmond and Sam Stanley investigating Teresa Banks' murder, or he should have cut that entire opening out and just filled that up with 30 more minutes of the Laura Palmer story and streamlined that into a film that people would have understood that didn't watch the show.
Right.
Either way would have worked for me. Together, I feel like it works, but it's almost like the two halves don't quite meet each other. Like for instance, like towards the end of the film, I think if we had had a shot of Chet Desmond or something like that to tie us back in, to feel like, because otherwise people could miss that whole first half hour, walk into the Laura Palmer story, and it never gets commented on again, except for having Teresa Banks and a couple of flashbacks. But you know, you could miss that whole first half hour and it wouldn't change your opinion of the movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know it's a flawed film, very flawed.
Ryan Quinn asks, "Do you think Shelley's house is finished, though?"
I know. It's only been 25 years.
Dallas Streets writes, "I like James. but I don't miss James for this podcast.
Oh, poor James.
Username Nancy.
I'm gonna do a James impression.
Okay.
Cameron, what do you mean by that, Cameron? I kind of liken it to Harry Dean Stanton's role in Pretty in Pink, you know. But I'm gonna do my American accent. Oh, Molly Ringwald, what do you think about wearing a pink prom dress? I love you, James.
No, you forgot to throw in the Exorcist reference.
Oh, he loves the Exorcist references.
But he doesn't like Exorcist 1. He only likes Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
The Heretic, which is always forgotten about compared to the first one, obviously, because the first one was so groundbreaking.
No, because James said that he heard the critic Mark Kermode talk about Exorcist 2 as being the fever dream of a wild madman. And James said, well, that sounds like the perfect movie for me. So Hal Brandt writes, animal life, douche waffle life.
Here in your ring schwaffle.
Yes.
I'm going to get a refill. Give me 1 second.
Okay, I'll comment on this. Leonard writes, the first part of Fire Walk With Me took place in the opposite of Twin Peaks. We had a crappy diner, belligerent sheriff, etc. Yeah, no, I agree. And just like, you know, there was Chet Desmond, which was CD, and then that's obviously the opposite of Dale Cooper, DC. Username Nancy writes, Sherilyn will hate that James impression. You know, I got to say, the last podcast we did, I actually reached out to Sherilyn Fenn and invited her on, but never heard back. But I know she got the message. So she's always welcome on here anytime if she wants to come on and talk with us. We've had quite a few Twin Peaks people on this podcast before, so having her on would be great. Let's see.
I love James's impression of Americans because they all sound like Casey Kasem for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty funny. But overall, when you saw this teaser trailer, when it dropped, obviously we had no idea it was going to drop. Were you when you watched it, were you nervous, or did you go, okay, it's going to be time?
Well, it's weird because this morning I was off today, and I came home late last night. I was in Salem again, and I came home late last night, but I woke up and it was really early and there was nothing going on. I had a message from James and I saw what you guys posted last night, and then I went back to sleep. I didn't wake up till about like 1:30 p.m. my time. And all of a sudden my phone's like going off, you know, from the page, and this trailer happened while I was asleep. So I woke up and I was like, oh shit, what is this? So I look at it and I'm like, oh man. You know, I watched it on my phone because I had my phone near me. And I was just like, oh wow, it was short, but it really made me, like, promos have given me goosebumps. The Bad Lamenti one, this one, the one with Hawk. I've gotten goosebumps since the very first one, the small one with Laura when she, you know, goes like that. The small ones that Showtime has released have been tasteful. They've been emotional for me, and they've given me goosebumps. And I think we're gonna get a teaser trailer of some sort next. I mean,
by Christmas. By Christmas. I especially liked how Showtime used Michael J. Anderson dancing from the pilot to or the overseas pilot, I should say, to help promote Twin Peaks when he apparently isn't even in this show.
Yeah, we still confirmed that he's not in it.
Do you think he's in it after what he said about Lynch?
He's really, like, as Helena or James would say, he's really mad. He's absolutely bonkers. I don't know why he would be like that. He's always talked so well of Lynch in interviews, even, you know, up until like a couple of years ago. And why did he come on Facebook and say, "Oh, they lowballed me. Fuck Showtime. Fuck Lynch." Like, what did you think you were gonna get? You haven't made anything since Carnival. You're known for Twin Peaks.
Mm.
Did you think you were gonna get like $30 million to be in a few episodes of a show? Like, I mean, that's like Johnny Depp money. Like, who? As a crazy little guy. I mean, but now we could say the same for Sherilyn Fenn. I mean, what is going on with her? I mean,
that's what James said to me at first. He was like, "I think Sherilyn Fenn's going all Michael J. Anderson on Lynch now." When her tweets
right.
start, yeah. All right.
I mean, and I agree with some of these people that posted under what you posted that day, the tasteful post that you made that was on Facebook about Sherilyn, and like, you should be lucky that this happened and you're a part of it. You know, you haven't been in anything that to speak of really in years, anything prominent, anything that people really know. Appearances here and there. What was she on? The Gilmore Girls, things like that. Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, but that's over a decade ago.
That's what I mean. She should feel lucky that she's even in this. I mean, this is a way to resuscitate your career, and you're going at Lynch about it like that. Well, sorry, maybe the script isn't all about you. Sherilyn, I love her. I love her everything she's been in. I had a huge crush on her on Just One of the Guys when I was very young. No, I don't know what she's thinking.
Yeah, well, I'll see.
Sherilyn, and it's funny, like, you know, through Messenger on Facebook, and I mentioned, you know, I had a huge crush on you and Just One of the Guys. And she goes, "Oh, yeah, Sandy the Fish Girl, groovy."
Username Nancy asks, "Do you think that the show will explain why certain characters look differently because some actors had plastic surgery?" I don't think they're going to. I mean, the big one you'd have to acknowledge would be Lara Flynn Boyle, and she's not in it. So, as far as we know,
Right. I mean, Peggy Lipton looks great still. She may have had a little work done. She was like a supermodel in the 60s. She didn't need much work.
No, in fact, I almost think she looks like just a few years older. She doesn't even look that much older, you know? I mean, we're talking 25 years later, and some of these people, I mean, I think Dana Ashbrook looks like he's aged more than Peggy Lipton.
Dana Ashbrook, it's sad because it's just his hair, though. I mean, he went full Bob on us. He went Leland.
Yeah.
But he still looks great. He's still a handsome guy. His hair went gray very young.
If the rumor is true, slight spoilers here, but you know, it's not that big. If the rumor is
slight.
Yeah. If the rumor is true and Bobby Briggs is working in some capacity for the sheriff's station, maybe even as a deputy, does that make sense for his character?
Yes, I love that. I love that because, like, you just remember him in the pilot, like, "You keep your hands off of me, man." Like, it's just like with Deputy Andy, he was so anti-anarchist law, and I would totally love that.
I always love that simple but effective line of Michael Onke when he says, "Bobby Briggs, button it."
Well, I just love he's such a fucking punk. Excuse my French. He's such a punk.
Yeah.
Michael Onke's like, "Bobby, now you look at me," because he won't even look at him. And I remember being in like principal's offices, like being like that as I was a kid. Like, wouldn't even look at the principal because I was a little asshole. "You look at me." Like, it's just, I love that whole dynamic, and I could totally see him being a cop now because, you know, we all worked or grew up with people when we were younger that were little dickheads and became cops later in life. And so I find it funny and ironic, and I think that could totally work for his character.
Well, you know, he dealt so much cocaine that he probably knows how to like identify drug dealers now.
Yeah, and he's killed deputies, and he knows how to hide bodies.
Yeah,
he might be like a Dexter, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we have Lawrence Branagh who writes, "What do you think about Amy Shields' appearance in the trailer, and what sort of character do you think she will play?"
Know her? Who is that? When I saw her,
Well,
I know Seyfried.
Yeah, she's obviously a new character, but you know what's interesting is they keep dropping this name of Robert Nepper. I mean, he's reading on the audiobook. He's,
Right.
so obviously I think he's got to be big.
Who, Nepper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there was a lot of fanfare when he was cast, and people thought maybe he's the new Bob. He could be. He kind of reminds me of Wyndham Earle a little bit. His face,
Mm-hmm.
in some shots I've seen him in. I didn't know that Harry Goez was involved because he hasn't said anything on his Facebook. When I saw him talking, I was like, "Oh shit!" I mean, he wishes me happy birthday on Facebook here and there, and comments on stuff, and he's never mentioned that he's even in the new Peaks.
And
But I don't know. I don't know Amanda Shale and Robert Nepper. I'm a little familiar with, but I totally could see him being a villain of some sort.
I almost wonder if we're gonna get like a whole new team of FBI agents. Like we see a shot of all these people in suits walking down the road, kind of like reminds me of that opening of Tim Hunter's episode. I think it's 16 where they fully solve Laura's murder, and you have
Is that when they open up in the sailing fan?
no, that's the one where they have Onking, Cooper, Hawk, and I believe Albert all walking in the street together, in that slow motion shot of all four of them walking, and then
and Dr. Hayward.
Yeah, it's right after they find Maddie's body. So hopefully we'll get something like that again.
Tim Hunter was great. Hunter and Deschanel, Zoe's father, they were really, really good. What was it, Caleb Deschanel?
Yeah. Hal Brandt writes, "It's sad to see Sherilyn turn." Adamo writes, "Sherilyn is busy having garage sales." Ryan Quinn writes, "Peggy Lipton is the hottest 70-year-old ever."
Yeah, she really is.
I agree. Ryan Quinn says, "Where is Amber Tamblyn? Shouldn't she be in it? Because obviously she's related to Rush Tamblyn, who played."
People have said that. I've seen people saying that, and she's been at some of the festivals and things going on. So maybe she is in it. I know Russ Tamblyn has been very sick recently, hasn't he? He's had a couple operations, and Bamer is in it.
I don't know. I would hope so.
I loved him. His character. Rewatching the series over the years.
Oh yeah.
When I was a kid, I hated Ben Horn, and rewatching it over the last 5 years or so, I love Bobby Briggs and I love Ben Horn. Their characters are complex. They're well written. Even in the nonsensical stuff, it's still better than most of the others. Conventional, like Laura or James can be at times in the second season. They're very complex.
Laura,
and great acting.
You said Laura in the second season.
Laura Flynn Boyle.
Oh, Lara Flynn Boyle. Okay.
Donna. My apologies.
Well,
no, but in reading that John Thorne book, they really made a lot of those great characters. Even Sherilyn Fenn in the second season, second half, once she gets rescued from One-Eyed Jacks, they made them very one-dimensional and wooden and not well written, and they totally were not the same character they were.
I think one of I don't really have a problem with this, but if you look at it from a narrative point of view, you can see why they got a little bit in trouble. Because at the end of season 1, there's a lot of possible deaths that are happening, right? Nadine's overdosed. You have Catherine and Shelley in the sawmill. Obviously, Jacques Renault's dead. Cooper might be dead. There's quite a few possible deaths going on here. And then the second season begins, and not only is everybody alive, but they've added 10 or 12 more characters to the show.
Nobody died.
Yeah. So in a way, they kind of made it where they wrote in so many characters. Presumably, obviously, I know they love the world of Twin Peaks, but I think it's also to give some actors like Kyle a day off. I think that's probably a big reason for that.
But Cameron, don't you agree that nowadays that wouldn't have happened with the short seasons that you get on cable? A 32 episode,
Right.
sitcom anymore. And they were going by the rules of the time of the television medium.
Right.
And they didn't think they were going to get renewed for a second season. So Mark Frost always says he wrote all those cliffhangers to make the network and to get viewers for the new season. And I totally see that, but it worked against them because they were going with old television rules. Television still, it took about 10 years for them to catch up to what they needed to have. Sopranos, the things in the late 90s that really revamped television, the cable networks. Twin Peaks is not a 30-episode Friends kind of sitcom. And they weren't used to that at the time because it never was done before. I mean, it's just the rules at the time didn't apply. It didn't help, like everyone says, with the Gulf War, with Lynch being away, then Frost being away, all these different directors and writers. They shouldn't have added all those people to the second season if you were just going to bring everyone back anyway.
And listen, I know a lot of people complain about James and Evelyn, and James and I always joke about how that subplot kind of was the basis for Lynch's Lost Highway, at least the second half of it. But
right.
I think,
I didn't think.
But I think the worst character, and I've mentioned this before, but to me, the absolute worst character is Lana Milford. That
I knew you were going to say that. I knew because
the whole
I rewatched the show recently and I'm like, necessary.
Well, one, it doesn't go anywhere, and two, I mean, come on, a older senior citizen brings in a shotgun into a sheriff's station, and then they allow him to go into a room alone with her and the gun, and the cops and the FBI agents just stand out in the hallway.
No, it was nonsense. It was nonsensical. I rewatched it recently and I'm like, oh yeah, she's a character. I forgot about that. Like, terrible, terrible character. It wasn't, and it's sad because she wasn't a bad actress or anything, but it was a plot that should never have been developed. It was so silly. That was worse than the Evelyn and James thing, in my opinion. At least the Evelyn and James thing had this like weird fucking like cougar seducing young biker thing going on. Like, in the land of San Francisco, James rides his Harley into Evelyn Marsh's driveway. Like, it had something at least, but that was a terrible plot point. And in the book I just read, you can see where it separates. After you find out Leland was the killer, the episode that Leland dies, and then the next one is the Leland funeral, and it's the fight between the Milfords and the wife, and it's just, it doesn't feel like Twin Peaks from that point on for at least 10 episodes or so. It doesn't feel like Twin Peaks anymore.
I don't know. I mean, I think it does. I think it just.
Well, it had hints of it. It had hints of it.
Well, the problem is that they just closed that whole Laura Palmer story off and then restarted again. Right. What they should have done is, I think I've heard Frost say this before, but I've been saying this since the show was airing, was they should have weaved the Wyndham Earle stuff through the Laura stuff, especially in the second season, so that when they made the transition, it was smooth, because you were dealing with like 6 to 7 episodes before things pick up again. I still maintain, I know people will disagree with me, but I think it would have been smoother. Okay, may not have been better for some people, but I think it would have been smoother if Wyndham Earle had been the one who shot Cooper, not Josie Packard. Because when they say to Josie, why did you shoot him? Because he came here. That's not an answer.
That was a stupid thing to do. She had no reason to shoot him. That was terrible writing. There was so many other people that could have shot him.
They needed to get her off the show, they needed to get her off the show to film Heaven and Earth. But that was like, I mean, it was like you're watching this episode and it's going along its merry way, and then all of a sudden it feels like a tacked on ending, even though it wasn't. But it feels like a tacked on ending with like him fly fishing in his room, and then all of a sudden they wrap up the whole Josie Packard thing in like a minute and a half.
Yeah. And you know what it was is, like I said, is television at the time. That's what they did. Those ABC shows, this was on at the same time as like Full House on ABC. I mean, they weren't used to this story arc. That's what I'm thinking now. At the time, I didn't think like this. Now I'm like, now I see it. Traditional TV writers thinking, how do we do this? How do we wrap this up? Oh, we got a minute and 30 seconds. Here's what we do. Break. Because you didn't have cable TV without commercials.
Right.
You had to, everything was about the commercials. And it's sad, and the ratings and the commercials, because like I said, they had to do it within the confines of the time. It wouldn't have happened. That's a stupid plot hole. That's a plot hole which has aggravated me for a long time. Why did Josie shoot Cooper in the first season? She had no reason to. Her character had nothing to do with it.
And I still maintain that Joan Shen should have been in Fire Walk with Me, because I think it would have been amazing to see Laura teaching her quote unquote English, but realizing halfway through the lesson that Josie Packard is not who she is claiming to be, and the fact that Laura can sense that in her because she herself is that, would have been an amazing sequence. I do want to.
That stupid part with her and Pete with the 2x4s and Dell from the bank.
But again, why it's 2x4, 2x4? Because in the pilot, what is Pete saying? 2x4, 4x. You know what I mean? Again, it's just
going with the pilot.
Going with the pilot. Okay, Ryan Quinn brings up something here that I want to touch on, because I have never been able to touch on this on a podcast before, but they brought it up. So Dallas writes, Emery Battis for life, and Ryan Quinn writes, vacuum cleaners get me so hot. Now, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but this is something I've noticed. I don't know, when I was rewatching the show back in the early 90s. Lynch directs the second season premiere, but he also directs the first episode after in the second season.
Right? Yes, which was a good episode.
It's a good episode, but you have to wonder, why is he directing this episode as well, right? It's almost like in the first season, he directed the pilot, but then he directed episode 2, right? And you go, well, why did he direct episode 2? It's a great episode. Obviously, episode 2 is fantastic. But one of the reasons, one of the reasons why he directed it,
right? That was the cream corn episode with the Tremens.
Yeah. But I'm talking about episode 2 of season 1, right? Real quick. But one of the reasons why he directed that episode is because that whole Cooper dream sequence that takes up the whole last 15 minutes of the episode was what he directed for the European pilot. Or
oh wait, you're talking about season 1,
right? But now I'm going to jump to season 2. But yes,
okay, I'm confused.
Yes, but he also directed the first episode after the second season premiere. Yeah. And obviously the Tremmen, the cream corn stuff is fantastic. But there is a moment where I realized why he directed the next episode after the second season premiere. It's because Audrey Horne walks in and is the girl's vacuuming, right? And then she walks in and puts a necktie around Emily Battis.
Yeah, One-Eyed Jacks.
And he says the owner, and she's like, who is? And he's like, your father. And she has that look on her face, right? That outfit that Audrey Horne is wearing is the same outfit she's wearing at the end of the second season premiere when she's doing the prayer to Cooper. And really? what does she say in that prayer? She says, in case you want to know who owns this place, it's my father.
Right.
Now, the way they have it edited now is that she already knows her father owns Twin Peaks because they said the owner's going to come and see you. And so she's kind of getting it cleared by Emery Battis by making him state it. Yes, he is the owner.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that scene that she came after Emily Battis, I think that was a scene that was actually written and shot for the second season premiere, but it just became too long, so they incorporated it into the next episode. And so because it was a long sequence, Lynch said, well, I'll just direct this one too, since I'm doing it.
Is that confirmed? Do we know that?
No, but I don't understand why he would direct that next episode.
And why she would ask, and yeah, it's contradictory. Another plot hole. No, it is. I mean, and yeah. I never realized that until you just said that.
They do say, they do kind of say, oh, the owner's coming to see you and he likes the new girl and all that stuff.
Right,
so,
when she put the mask on. Yeah.
Right. But it is kind of interesting how, because they would say, I know some of the directors would say, oh, I've shot whole scenes that have ended up in other episodes.
Right.
So, and I remember they did shoot an entire subplot of James's mother, which never got into any of the shows.
Yeah, I never knew that until recently, Cameron, reading the John Thorne book, The Wrapped in Plastic. I never knew that they had shot all of that stuff with James's mother. Never knew that. I never, ever even knew that. I was like, oh, and it would have explained a lot of stuff. But I mean, was it necessary? I don't know. But there was it wasn't.
I think we got everything we need to,
Yeah.
James' mother's
my mom's out of town.
Yeah. Well, even Big Ed says, I look after James when his mother's away. So
yes,
and you have to take you have to keep in mind that Twin Peaks itself takes place over about a month and a few days. So I mean, the mom's gone. It's not like she's gone for like 3 years. I mean, it's a month.
Right. Couple weeks. My mom writes for the paper sometimes, the local paper.
Exactly. So, all right. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up? We've been going almost 2 hours now.
Oh shit, this is great. This has been great, man. I'm excited. I hope we got to keep doing this. I am all for commentary. I'm all for reviews. I was going to bring up that I think. Did your Secret History of Twin Peaks get pushed out a few days?
Yeah, Amazon hasn't even sent it out yet.
Pushed out, even though the release date is still the same. They sent me an email saying, sorry, you won't be getting this till the end of the week.
Right.
But I was thinking we should read a few chapters, all of us, review it, talk about it.
I don't know how it's set up, if it is by chapters or not, but if it is, I want to do a video on every chapter of the book.
Chapter by chapter, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. We should do chapter by chapter.
You can't read that whole book and then do like a 2-hour podcast about the book. I think in order to go into all the details, you need to say this episode podcast is about chapter 1.
Yes, I agree. And that's why I wanted to bring it up to you. And I was going to tell James, we should totally do a review of each chapter when we get it. I was so pissed that it was supposed to be here yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, it's been pushed out. Now the release date is different and you're going to get it at the end of the week. Okay. And it's like.
Deming Pogue writes, there are no chapters in the book.
Oh,
then
really?
Then we know what we're going to do. We're going to do Secret History of Twin Peaks podcast, pages 1 through 25.
Yes. What does he think? He just like with the missing pieces, you can't, and Mulholland Drive, there's no chapters.
Exactly. I think that's probably. Demi writes, there's sections of various length. All right, then maybe we'll just take like a section, or we could break it down by character too. and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we're going to cover all the Dougie Milford stuff, and you can probably skip this podcast because it's not going to be very interesting.
They're making it like a dossier. So
Right.
it's one continuous thing and different subjects. So we'll just go subject or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, we'll know once we get a hold of the book and can look at it. We'll know how to break it down.
I'm excited, Cam. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I still kind of pinch myself every day. Like, this is really happening. I mean, when Lynch dropped out, or quote unquote dropped out of the project, I was like, do not tease us like this and then drop out.
That was terrible. I still think that was all staged at some point. I mean,
but I'll tell you though, there is the evil part of me that because I think Mark Frost did an amazing job at that finale of season 1, directing it. If Lynch had walked away, I would have rather Mark Frost direct it and show it to us than not have it happen.
Right, but you're gonna miss so much of the Lynch.
I would rather have something than nothing. if you're gonna tease it that far.
Now, when that happened, had they filmed anything yet?
No, not that I'm aware.
Nothing had been filmed at all.
No, although I still maintain. I said this on the last podcast. I still maintain that all the Catherine E. Coulson filming is probably log lady introductions.
Really? See, I know. No. I watched last night when you said that. I mean, how much could she have filmed? I mean, she was battling cancer.
Right. But if you put her in a set by herself, then she could, pace herself, and you don't have to work with other actors, and because there was no indication that other actors were working with her. So I don't think that he's just filming her crying on the porch anymore. Yeah.
He's been friends with her since the 60s, 70s. So he obviously knew she was gonna go soon. I mean, I think maybe she like introduces the first season, something like that. I want to something like that, right? If it's not every episode, I don't think it's going to be every episode, but she probably is going to have something to say before, like when it starts.
Mm-hmm.
And because maybe they're doing 2 seasons, that they can break it up and do her introducing this one and then that one. Right. And I'd be fine with that. As long as she's involved somehow, because she was such an integral character, a peripheral character, but integral.
Okay. Username Nancy writes, I was so mad when Lynch left the project. I wanted to call the cops and tell them that Lynch pulled out on me and left. Deming Pogue writes, James's mom is mentioned in the book, but nothing more is said about her.
Oh, is this the people that already have their copy?
Yeah. Thanks.
Fuck you all. I'm jealous. No. I see people on Instagram because, I have our page on Instagram, and people have been posting their pictures of the book all day, and I'm like, fuck you all. I had this ordered for months, and it should have been at my doorstep yesterday. And Amazon's like, no, it's not coming until Friday, maybe Thursday at the earliest. And it's like, you're supposed to get it on the day of release. And what is that?
Oh, that's okay, because England got pushed back. Yeah. Yeah, because, the UK got it, or is getting it later than us anyway. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would imagine that. Usually they're before or after us. But it was angering me. I wanted to get it on my day off, read some of it, be able to talk about it with you and others. And now it might be coming this weekend. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. Do you know when you're getting your copy?
I have no clue. They haven't even mailed it out yet.
Yeah. They told me expected shipping date is the end of this week. So I'm hoping we get it by this weekend and we can talk about it maybe like Sunday night, do a podcast live, not chapters because there's no chapters apparently, but
Okay, a lot of people are saying that they haven't gotten their copies either. And some Ryan writes, "Why did I even pre-order? I mean, I can just walk into a bookstore and buy it." I was
Yes.
I don't have any bookstores around me. They've closed all of them. There's no bookstores
Yeah,
anymore.
me too.
Yeah. So
Everything is gone. There's
yeah,
no borders. There's no, and it's like, where would I go? But people on Instagram was like, "Oh, I got my copy 3 days early because I went to the
yeah.
bookstore."
I actually
It's
had to
like,
I actually had to ask someone to turn off, to stop posting about it because I was like going, please don't post the pages. I haven't even read it yet.
yeah. I mean, and it's like, why even pre-order and get the price guarantee and the date of release guarantee
Right,
when if you had a bookstore, you could just go and get it.
right, right. No, all the bookstores are gone. That they're basically like Suncoast Video.
Yeah, there's no video store. There's no music stores. There's no very little music stores. There's no bookstores. It's like it's sad in a way. It's like I have to go on Amazon and pay $30 for each thing and shipping, and it's like
Right.
it's sad.
I wonder if they're in the new series if they're going to mention about America's addiction to coffee now, because back in 1990 there wasn't Starbucks on every corner.
Right. I
Yeah.
know.
So
I'm interested to see the coffee thing, the cell phone thing, the smartphone. Like, what is Cooper gonna do when he? You know what I mean? It's a lot of technology. I mean, they were typing on fucking.
yeah,
I mean, it's interesting to see how they've adapted, and maybe that's where the humor is gonna come from, like the change of times, things.
yeah. Vincent Michael writes, probably to me, has your negative opinion on the book changed, or are you more excited about the book? I'm excited to look at it and read it and all that. I just haven't been excited by what I have seen. I'm hoping that the rest of the book makes up for it. But
But didn't you say that it's going to be broken up into volumes now, like volume 1 and 2?
well, I mean, that's what Frost is hinting at, that there is going to be a volume 2.
See, so I'm guessing we get this, then the show comes out, then volume 2 comes out, then season 2 comes out. I mean, that's you. I think you alluded to that, and I'm saying that's probably what's going to happen.
Like all the stuff that could be spoilerific for this new season will come out in volume 2 after season 3 part 1 or
Right,
comes out.
like you said. Like you said, you're going to burn yourself on air like a monk in Vietnam if it's killed in the.
No, not me. Not myself. I was gonna play Julie Cruz maybe into the night, and I was gonna take this beautiful book that I bought and put it on a barbecue, like at a park, and just light it on fire while Julie Cruz is like, "Now it's dark."
You're going to play Russian roulette on Twin Peaks Live podcast over Annie.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I'm
I
just
don't
saying.
think any of the main spoilers are going to be in the book. I can't see Lynch okaying that.
Right. Right. Okay. All right, I'm just going to throw this out there because Demi wants to let us know about this. He says the book is good, but it does not deal with anything after the show except for a brief passage written by Major Briggs about Cooper, as well as the aftermath of the bank explosion. But he says there is more about Hank Jennings in the book.
Hank
Maybe
Jennings.
we'll find out more about who he manslaughtered, because we never really know.
Oh yeah.
Considering that there had to have been a body. I mean, we knew it wasn't Andrew Packard.
Well, Chris Mulkey's not going to be in it, right?
But he is reading on the audio book. So why would they get him for the audio book if he's not in the show? That doesn't make any sense.
That's weird. I don't think that. I think James has been saying that whole cast list is MacGuffin. I a red herring.
Because it wasn't so much the names on the list that made me go, wow, that's weird. It was the names they left out. Because the names that should have been on there weren't on there, and then we were getting names that you know, like I said, Trent Reznor, and you know, there was just Michael Cera.
Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, very strange names that were showing up.
All of a sudden, you know, like when some Michael Cera's like, "These eyes cry every night for you."
Yeah. So, Ryan writes, I agree with Eric. What Eric said the other day. This is just a chance to get immersed in the world, even though 80% is probably unnecessary. It's still fun to get a bigger context to everything that happened. I understand that, but that to me is what Lostpedia is, and that's, you know, and Star Wars Wikipedia is. I mean, that do we? I don't know if I need a 350-page book for, you know, history that anybody could have made up.
Well,
you know?
fan theory.
Yeah.
Fan theory. I mean, I don't want a fucking book of 300 pages for fan theory.
Yeah.
I had fan theory for 25 years. You know?
Yeah.
Mark Frost is writing the book.
I mean, when the book was when the book was first talked about, I thought it was because it was called The Secret Lives of Twin Peaks, and I honestly thought the way it was being discussed was that it was going to be in chapters, and it would say, you know, Catherine Martell, and then it would tell us, you know, in 6 to 10 pages, whatever, what she's been doing over the last 25 years, and it would kind of bridge us up to where the new series is. Then that was kind of tossed out, and then we get this thing, which is sort of like a more fully produced Twin Peaks access guide for, you know, just with a little bit more history. And I gotta tell you, I am gonna give it a shot. I want to read it, do want to look at it, but everything I'm hearing about the book, everything I've seen about the book, if it wasn't Twin Peaks, and let's say it was about Supernatural or the Vampire Diaries, I would have canceled my pre-order. I would have canceled it by now. I'm not impressed by what I've seen. Now, again, I could change my mind when I see it, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, doesn't you know? I don't know. It just doesn't sound very exciting to me.
Oh, and you know, I know why, because like I said last time we spoke, it's not what our expectations were. I'm a little disappointed because of the expectations are high. The Project Blue Book stuff, yeah, because it was mentioned in the series. We never heard about, you know, Lewis and Clark, Sacagawea, like we never heard about this stuff.
And as James,
film, the movie, the series, the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer, and you know that Mark Frost can be long-winded. He's big into legends and history, so I can see where that's coming from. But you have to think that Lynch has some input on the book.
Well, he didn't have any.
I mean, they wrote the scripts together.
He didn't have any input on Jennifer Lynch's book. He didn't have any input on Scott Frost's book of Agent Cooper, My Life, My Tapes.
But do you think he just okayed it and said, Frost, just release it? I mean, without his input?
I'll tell you what really upsets me about the book, besides some of these little tangent things, is the laziness. Now, James will differ with me on this, but I think it's completely lazy to be, like when they talk about Carl Rodd in the book, showing a still of Harry Dean Stanton from the behind the scenes of Fire Walk with Me. Right. You know, you're working with Harry Dean Stanton in this new series. Get a younger picture of him. Get another picture of him. Why am I seeing pictures that were taken during the original series? Right. You know, like behind the scenes stills and stuff like that. It's just, James is okay with it because he's like, oh, it reminds me of the original show. Well, it should, but to me, that's not a real Twin Peaks history. That looks like just someone, Joe Blow, made this book and released it on Amazon then because they couldn't get the rights to their picture.
I mean, that's a lazy. Think it is. You know, you can't get an updated picture like that fits with the book, that fits with the new series.
So Hal Brandt writes, Frost admitted that Lynch had zero input on this book.
Oh. That doesn't make me feel good. I love Mark Frost, but that doesn't. It
Well,
doesn't make me feel great.
as James likes to say, nobody, you never want to go full Frost.
No, you don't. I mean, full
And
Lynch.
and you
okay.
don't. Sometimes.
Sometimes Inland Empire, not so much.
Cowboy and the Frenchman,
But
not so much.
yes, yeah, you're right, and that's like I always said, that whole Lennon-McCartney like balance. To use a comparison, they were great because they worked together and they X'd out the other worst parts. But Full Frost, I mean, oh, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we're reviewing the book.
Yeah. We'll review the book, and if I'm still unsatisfied or there's some things in there that truly anger me, like there's a few things I've heard about that truly irritate the living hell out of me. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I've never burned a book in my life, but if I have to start with one, I'll start with this one.
You have to do the book and possibly commit Harry Carey.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we all should, like, ritually, on YouTube. It would be a sensation.
Well, it would definitely give the new Twin Peaks season 3 like some coverage that they probably don't want.
A lot of buzz.
A bunch of Twin Peaks fans on YouTube have burned themselves to death in protest. All right, let's wrap this up because we're over 2 hours now. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for everybody throwing out your comments. I know this was kind of short notice, but I figured we have to talk about it after this teaser trailer dropped. So how could we not? But I'm going to be doing a bunch of these live videos in the future for a bunch of different topics as well. And again, if you like this video or these kind of videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let people know about it, because I want to get to 1,000 subscribers. I think that would be awesome. This channel's been up for a few years now, and damn it, I want more people to know about it. So again, thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care.